Hi Internet, it's Gary. If you're watching the video, you probably know who I am though. I'm joined today by a goon,
It's your wife.
my wife, Angela. You've probably seen her in pictures before if you've seen my con pictures because she's normally huddled around me with a backpack. Say hello.
Hello, I'm Angela.
Alright, we're here today because I've been teasing photos on my Facebook of this thing for a few days while I put together this video. And what comes out of that mold is a piece of a costume. Go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yeah, do it. Whoa! It's a Destiny knife. Destiny Hunter's knife, actually. This one, it's a piece of a costume, but the costume this time is not for me. At least not this piece. It's for her. We're going to be doing Destiny costumes. She's going to be a female hunter. I will be a male warlock. So couples costume. Very exciting.
I'm excited.
She's excited. She's been following me around without a costume for long enough. So we're tackling a group project. Anyway, now we're going to take you step by step how I put this thing together. It's my first adventure in mold making, so we're going to go over that too. I'm going to flick over to the other screen, and we'll get started. Okay, so we started off with a template. Destiny and Bungie were nice enough to give the cosplay community and the artist community reference portal on their website, which is pretty handy. They have all the weapons.
We'll put a link under the video.
Yeah, it's great. You're going to love it. But they have scale, measurements, many different angles of most of the weapons and some of the costumes. That's where we got this. I traced it out in Illustrator and cut it out. And it was a little bit smaller than the 6-foot male template, so we scaled it down a touch. This knife's supposed to be 17 inches long, which is huge. It's like machete size. So we shrank it down to 86%, which is still a sizable knife. You can see right there. I'm in my man hands. It's not small. So it's pretty big for her. She's 86% of a 6-foot man. Just fun fact.
Seems too high.
I guess. Anyway, that's the trace. We put it onto Sintra. That's expanded PVC board. Great stuff. Love it. I've used it before. And we didn't have any Sintra thick enough, so my wife took pictures of the dog. That's not what happened next. We laminated some Sintra together. 4 pieces of it.
When you say laminated, you mean like glued together?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what laminated means. I used some spray adhesive, stuck it together. In hindsight, I might have used a stronger glue, but it worked pretty well. This is me spraying, and this is us tracing a pattern onto our laminated Sintra boards. And then cutting that pattern out with a scroll saw. This is my Dremel Moto saw. It's cheap little guy. Works really well. Handy tool. And that's what we ended up with. This is a rough shape to scale, obviously. From here, it required a little bit of shaping to get the curves nice, because I jumped around a little bit with the scroll saw. And then we cut off the portion of the pattern with the bevel, so we can get the line for the bevel, as well as the placement of the little indented circles and the hunter's mark. Now, for the hunter's mark, Sintra is kind of soft. You could sink your fingernail into it, even you.
I'm not brave enough for that.
So what I did was 3D print myself a hunter's mark stamp. And instead of trying to carve out the hunter symbol, I just took the stamp and pressed it into the Sintra with my bench vise. And it gave me some recessed details.
Okay, but if someone doesn't have a stamp,
well, if someone didn't have a stamp
or a 3D printer, what would they do?
Or a 3D printer, Sintra, you could also cut that symbol out with your knife before you laminate. However, that's going to be kind of complicated.
Could you paint it on at the end?
You could paint it on, yeah. I mean, that would be a way to get it on there. It wouldn't have any detail to it. You wouldn't be able to feel it. It wouldn't be recessed. So a little less accurate, but it would still work. Drilling holes. I used my drill press and some hole saw bits, a little blade variety on this. 2 different sizes. Got close enough to the model to be accurate. And then the real work starts. This thing's 4 pieces thick, so it's got a little bit of girth to it. So we had to grind in the bevels first with the Dremel, and then cleaning them up with a hand file for a long time. This takes a while. This is the majority of the work, to get that even and follow that blue line that we traced. You got to do both sides, and you got to make sure that you hit the middle, or else you're going to have a wavy bevel to your knife, and that's no good. Also rounded off the sides, and you can see I stamped the hunter's mark and some circle details. Circle details were also done with the bench vise, just stamping in little rings that I found around the shop. I cut a big pen into a little segment of that and pressed it in. That worked really well. Finish sanding, you can see my bevels are looking pretty uniform. We haven't gone over the line, we just got right up to it. And once I was happy with the shape, we primed it and then wet sanded it, so it got pretty smooth. You can see I added bevels on the back edge as well as around this hole, because that is in the reference images. And that's pretty much what it looked like before it went into the mold. Now, if you weren't going to cast this, you wanted to make just one, you could stop here and you could paint this and you could have a pretty accurate prop. I didn't want to stop there because I wanted to make a bunch, and I wanted to try casting. I've had a bunch of supplies sitting in the back bedroom taking up space for a while that I bought for another project, but I've been eager to put something under silicone for a while. So this was a good opportunity. Small piece, relatively simple, so I could kind of, you know, cut my teeth on this before I stepped up into something bigger. Anyway, mold making process, I used Legos. This is popular. A lot of people do this for small pieces. Big pieces not so cost effective anymore. What you do is you fill the bottom half with clay, and then you carve out a space for the object, in this case our knife. You can see me cutting into the clay, cutting a recess for that knife, because this needs to sit halfway into the clay. And once it does, it looks a little something like that.
It doesn't have to be perfect, though, right?
You're getting close while you're carving it out. Not perfect. Once you set it in, you can fix any mistakes you had. You're going to want to seal up around these edges really nicely. Make sure that no silicone will leak behind the knife. And then once you're happy with that, you're going to add a pour spout. Any areas like this where air could get trapped, you're going to want to release that air out the top. And all these divots, those are registration marks to keep the mold aligned once you're done. So basically it's silicone time. I've mixed up my silicone, in this case Mold-Max 40 by Smooth On. Comes out a nice minty blue color. And poured it in the mold. This is half one. You let that cure for 24 hours. Takes a long while without any accelerant. So tap the air bubbles out, and then I took off this little ridge here. There was extra space because I was making a mold bigger, just in case I over poured. Anyway, level that out, and you flip the mold. And when you flip the mold, you're going to see clay. And that clay needs to come out. So take the clay out and expose your object. Expose the knife. And then you clean all the clay off of the surface of the silicone. It's important not to move this knife from where it's sitting though. You want to keep it in there, don't take it out. And then build your mold backs back up, add clay to the pour spout, and I guess pour the other half. That's pretty much what it is. Whoa. I forgot something. This is very important to mold making. Mold release.
Just pour it on.
No, don't just pour silicone. Use mold release before you pour the second half of your mold. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a brick of silicone with a very nice prop in the middle of that you'll have to cut out. Hopefully you can salvage. Anyhow, once the mold release is sprayed on there and dried, pour the second half of the block. Again, Mold Max 40, pouring long, thin streams into one spot and letting it seek its own level. Try and make sure air bubbles don't form. That's beautiful. Look at that. I don't even know what that picture is.
That's what happens when I take the pictures.
I think you dropped the camera. Anyway, your mold cures for another 24 hours, and then it's time to, I don't know, unmold the mold. We've taken apart our Legos, and you split the mold. That mold release means it'll come in half very nicely. You can see you'll have registration marks that fit into the little holes on the other half, and you're left with two halves of a beautiful hunter's knife. Alright, now you can move on to actual fun stuff, casting. This is all prep work essentially. Unfortunately, it takes the majority of the time. In this case, I dusted our knives with aluminum powder. This is a cold casting process. Yeah, you can see they got a little bit of shine to them. Ooh.
Well, why are they patterned though?
Oh, that's important. I'll get to that in the process part. But the Destiny reference material has a little bit of a splatter effect going on the knife blades. So we tried to replicate that in these using a cool little trick that I came up with. I'll show it to you in a second when we get there. But we dusted the jacket of the mold with silver, aluminum powder, before we poured in our plastic. Our plastic is a smooth cast 300? 320? 320. It's white, so we tinted it gray with a little bit of black, So Strong tint, and poured it into the mold. These are great. This comes out really fast. You can mold a knife in 30 minutes. Mixing, pouring, the whole waiting process. Because they cure in about 15, which is awesome. Just mass produced. Feels great. And when you pull the knife out of the mold, you end up with this, a dusty silver reproduction of your original. Now I casted these in silver first and weathered them up, and they looked a little like that. You can see there was a little bit of learning curve. This one's a dud. I trapped a little air in there by mistake. My fault though. I've since fixed that issue just by angling the mold in the bucket. But we taped up our grips with hockey tape. It's black hockey tape. It's got a nice cloth texture to it. And we dusted those with a little bit of chalk and colored pencil, believe it or not. And they end up looking kind of nice and weathered. You can see there, it's got that texture from the cloth tape. Looks really, really good.
You used white chalk?
Used white and a light gray colored pencil. Prismacolor. A little more expensive than it needs to be, but that's what I have. Alright, that speckle pattern that I was talking about before. It's in the reference material. You can see it's all drippy and I don't know what to call it. Weathered?
It's like camo.
It's kind of camo. I mean, I don't know if that was their intention, but it's just dried something. But blood, gray blood. Whatever it is, it's in the reference photos. So I wasn't really happy with the knife being straight silver. I wanted to try and capture that. So what I did was mix up a little bit of urethane resin, and then I dripped it into the mold and kind of rotated it around and pushed it around with the end of a brush, not the bristles, just the wood end, to try and get drips and runs, and let that cure. And after it cured, I dusted the mold jacket with that aluminum powder again for the cold casting, and went back and removed those runs, and you get these drippy patterns that would be the gray of the plastic and not the silver, the bright silver. So when you cast it, it comes out like that. You have your dusty silver, and then you have the color of the resin, which is the darker gray. Once they're weathered up, they look a little something like that. I did 2 like this. Reason being, I have the knife for Angela. Hold up your knife. She's very proud.
This one's mine.
It looks beautiful. And then I have its twin here, because I'm going to give one of these away on Facebook. Fun. For you. What you need to do is I'll post this video up after we're done cutting it together, and then just share that link, and one of you who share it I will pick randomly and get your info and ship it out to you. So this knife right here, this guy, is one of yours. One of you will own it.
Will you ship it internationally?
Sure, yeah, wherever you want. Australia, military, I don't care. I'll ship it anywhere. USPS is pretty cost effective.
It's small.
Also, if you're not lucky enough to win it on Facebook, I will be putting these up on my Etsy store for purchase. I'll put a link in the comment below, so you can check that out. I have a few things up there. I'm going to try and add to it as time goes by. More objects, knives, and weapons. The more I cast, the more I'll have up there. But thank you for watching. You have anything? No?
No.
You're good? Goodbye.
Bye!